of Management Studies IGNOU presents an audiobook on the course MMPC-012 titled Strategic Management for MBA Program. Presenting Block 4 titled Strategy Implementation and Control, Unit 10 Implementation Behavioral Dimensions Part 2.
Now let us study the leadership styles. The statement that a good leader varies his or her style between authoritarian to participative, autocratic to democratic, depending on the task, the changing situation he or she encounters and changing group that he or she has to lead, sums up rather briefly the way an effective leader has to function. However, no effective leader ever consciously adopts a specific style. It comes naturally from within. Style invariably is the reflection of the substance. In practical terms, any change in style is merely an intuitive variation in the mix of personal example, persuasion and compulsion. Personal example is the most potent factor in the technique to inspire people to do what they are expected to do. If a leader can work 12 to 14 hours a day, then the message gets across. Personal example is punctuality, integrity, honesty, frugality, courage, persistence, initiative, unselfish love of people, or whatever is infectious with the Indian people. They try and live up to the standards of a leader. To do yourself what you expect your people to do is the secret of leading people. There are people and there are times when persuasion is necessary to motivate people to do what has to be done. When they understand the circumstances, people do rise to the occasion and go through the most irksome tasks. The long-term persuasion lies in the organizational culture, esprit de corps, in which people take pride in doing anything to uphold the honor and good name of the organization. Now, leadership in Indian context, what does it say? More and more organizations in the country are reflecting the diversity of Indian people. Executives and workers in organizations often hail from different parts of the country, speak different languages, have different customs and traditions, profess different religions, and have different ethnic origin. For a leader to be able to handle such group of people, he or she must be able to rise above his or her own narrow regional, religious, linguistic, and ethnic origin and project by convictions and actions a true all-India personality to be able to command respect and loyalty of his team. There are two essential requirements for succeeding in this goal. First, a leader should have a good grasp and pride in the long history and cultural ethos of India. Second, a leader should have rudimentary knowledge of all religions of India and he or she should genuinely respect all faiths. Developing appropriate leadership is one of the most important elements in the implementation of a strategy. This is important because leaders are key organic elements who help an organization cope with changes. Appropriate leadership is necessary, though not a sufficient condition, for mobilizing people and for developing effective structure and systems for the success of strategy. Failure of leadership may lead to difficulties in achieving goal congruence, communication breakdown, ambiguity with regard to roles of subunits, and difficulty in obtaining commitment to a plan. Example, staff conflicts and lack of strategic thinking. Leadership is the key factor for developing and maintaining the right culture and climate. There are several aspects of leadership styles and skills. Some of them are more appropriate to the context and content of a strategy, while others are desirable attributes in general for the success of an organization. Leadership styles are manifested through the orientations. Khandwala has identified 5 orientations, dimensions of style, namely the risk-taking, willingness to make high-risk, high-return decisions, optimization, degree of commitment to the use of planning and management, science techniques in decision-making by technically qualified people vis-a-vis seat or the pant decisions, flexibility, degree of looseness and flexibility in organization structuring, participation of those other than the ones holding key positions, and coercion, use of fear and domination. Now, for superior performance on key organization goals, she or he proposes that if the orientation of top management is risk taking, then it should be at least moderately organic and coercive in proportion to internal resistance to change. Orientation is risk aversive, then it should be moderately mechanistic and non coercive. Orientation is of highly optimization type, then it should be strongly participative. Orientation is highly seat or the pant and non technocratic, then it should be at least moderately risk taking and non participative. Different leadership styles have good fit with different environments. Since the strategy determines the product and market scope and also the environment in which the organization is going to operate in future, it has a bearing on leadership style. Khandwala has further categorized leadership styles into 7 types to relate them to environment, each reflecting different mix of the 5 orientations. Like leadership, there are several dimensions of environment also, namely the degree of turbulence or volatility, high degree of changeability, unpredictability, hostility, hostile environment are highly risky and overwhelming, heterogeneity, diversity of markets or consumers, restrictiveness, economic, social, legal, and political constraints, and the degree of technological sophistication. It should be noted that while the above discussion gives a good idea of orientations and the styles of leadership to respond effectively to the environmental demands, it does not cover the leadership skills required for revitalization or transformation of the organization. The above discussion gives the attributes of a manager who is a transactional leader and not a transformational leader. The task of a transformation or revitalization leader is to take the organization to a dominant position. This involves managing change or transition. It has 3 distinctive phases. First, recognizing the need for revitalization. Second, creating a new vision. Third, institutionalizing change. Now, the leadership task in the first phase requires the ability to sense the need for change. Often there is a low threshold to catch trigger events in the environment. The second phase requires communication skills to create a vision for future that excites people to move, and also the interpersonal skills and creativity to mobilize commitment of at least at critical mass in the organization. To perform the task in the third phase of the transformation process, the leader should have the ability to understand and manage powerful conflicting forces in people. The negative emotions and threats to power and authority have to be transformed into positive emotions and reconciliation. New ways of working, new styles, new culture, and new norms have to be developed. The shock of change has to be reduced. The challenges of leadership in implementation are grave, as leadership is the scarcest resource. Organizations cope with it in several ways by changing the current leadership and by developing appropriate leadership styles. The change of current leadership may not be easy to achieve, even though it might be inevitable for effecting transformation in the situation. The existing leadership might have been cast in a particular mold which may be inappropriate to the demands of the organization. The casting effect can be overcome if changes are introduced gradually in the leadership styles and skills to avoid accumulated lags or mismatches between existing leadership styles or skills and organizations' changed requirements. This would require a blueprint to indicate the kinds of styles and skills and the number of persons of different styles and skills required in future, current talent available, and plan of recruitment and grooming. The task of human resources development is thus very closely related and determined by strategy of the organization. What is corporate culture? Each organization has its own way of dealing with corporate problems and do have their own organizational structure. The culture of the organization very much depends on the behavior of the employees. If the employees have a strong commitment towards their organizations, the organization is said to have a strong culture and vice versa. It is not easy to have a strong culture in the organization. A lot of it depends on how the leaders of the organization handle their employees. Looking at this decision, we can infer that corporate culture is the value and beliefs accepted and practiced by all the employees of the organization. To have an appropriate corporate culture, the strategy of the organization should match with it. In this section, we would stress more on the role of leaders in shaping the culture of the organization and will discuss the role of leaders in handling the employees. When it comes to handling people, the total personality of a leader comes into play. Managerial effectiveness is the management terminology for leadership. It is well to remember that this truth is applicable at all the levels of management, junior, middle, and senior. The CATS model, relevant value of management skills at various levels. Although there have been some minor changes in the original design, it clearly shows that human relation skill is consistently the biggest component at all the levels of management. A leader in any organization has to handle people in the following three directions. The first is downwards his or her own team, which he or she has to build as an effective and cohesive group motivated to achieve the goals of the organization. The second is lateral, which involves winning the support and cooperation of colleagues over whom the leader has no control but who have an important functional relationship with the group or organization headed by the leader. The third is a purposeful, constructive, and harmonious relation with the higher authority under whom a leader functions the boss. In order to handle people effectively, it is useful for a leader to understand human nature. There are a large number of theories about it. For developing leadership potential, it is useful to focus our attention on two concepts which have a lasting and practical value for learners. Once people are convinced that she or he is a person who knows them well and she or he truly cares about them, then they would do anything for the leader. However, it requires a very major effort to know people and know them better than even their own mothers, effort in terms of time, attention, and genuine interest in people. Communication. To know people, the ability to know people is the starting point to handle them, and communication skill plays an important role in this ability to help a leader to tell what she or he wants done. However, some essential features of this skill relevant to knowing and handling people needs discussion. Most of the strained and fractured relations can be traced on the mutual breakdown of communications between individuals in a family, group, community, countries, and even among the community of nations. The ability to communicate puts human relations on an even level by removing misperceptions and misunderstandings. This ability has two sides. First, the skill of expression, and second, the skill of listening. The skill of expression. The skill of expression does not merely mean gift of the gab or cleverness with words. For a leader, the skill of expression is a vehicle to generate trust. Verbal expression counts for only 30% in this skill. The balance 70% is the body language expression in the eyes, conviction in the tone, the sincerity in the posture, and generally the vibrations that a person conveys. Body language communicates the total personality of a leader, and its effectiveness depends entirely on the strength and balance of the universal inner structure of effective leaders. In genuine expression, there can be no pretension. Spontaneity, straightforwardness, and sincerity are far more effective than sheer command over the language. The skill of listening. The skill of listening means understanding and knowing the other person. It has been found that this part of communication skill is even more important, but unfortunately less prevalent. Listen with ears and observe body language with eyes. Even nature has a design in the listen-talk ratio. Listening has three ingredients. The first, of course, is the physical process of hearing what the other person is saying. This involves attention. Comprehending what the person is saying is the second ingredient and demands undivided attention. Looking out of the window or attending to routine papers while listening are signs of inattentiveness. Remembering what you listen is the third ingredient of this skill. and naturally comes about only if a leader hears and comprehends what is said. The ability to listen attentively and with sympathy, in which a leader shows signs of warmth, makes the other person feel that she or he is an individual and not merely a faceless part of the machine. It helps generate trust in the team. Experience shows that effective communication means 50% listening, 25% speaking, 15% reading, and 10% writing. Handling people working for a leader. Self-control. No team captain can hope to control and inspire his or her team unless she or he learns to control and discipline himself. This is a difficult task, but without it, there is little chance for a man to become a successful leader. It requires a certain amount of philosophical outlook and fragility, which is often associated with aristocrats and saints. Self-control does not only add to the leadership potential, it also is a source of great happiness. Success and failure. It is a basic trait of human nature that an individual ascribes successes of an organization to the part played by him or her and blames failures on the system. On the other hand, a good leader gives credit to his or her employees for successes and takes responsibility for failures. This approach binds men together in a collective effort to work for the organization. Setting targets. It is useful to let individuals themselves set targets for work. In this event, not only are they likely to meet these targets, but even surpass them. Correcting mistakes. A leader often corrects the people who falter or show traces of weakness or fail. It is better to say, "This is not what is expected of a person of your caliber and ability," rather than words to the effect, "What else one could expect from a clot like you." The first approach enhances a man's self-respect even in failure. The second approach makes him your enemy. We and not you. A good leader always projects him or her as a part of the team and invariably talks in terms of we and not you. Accessibility. It is a leader's responsibility to ensure that she and he is accessible. She or he should institutionalize the time and place for meeting the members of his team. Tragedies and illness are a frequent occurrence in human life. A good leader makes it a point to find time for seeing men who are afflicted too, who have difficult problems to tackle. Visiting them in case they are hospitalized should also be a matter of priority line location. You win lasting commitment from people thus handled. Anger. A good leader does not lose his or her temper. However, righteous anger is very different from uncontrolled rage and should not be suppressed. However, special care should be taken to uphold the honor and dignity of an individual in the presence of his colleagues and family members. Recognition. Good and effective leaders have used the human urge for recognition with telling effect to foster interpersonal bonds with their people and to motivate them. They have scrupulously used the principle of praise in public and reprimand in private to create an organizational culture in which people work much beyond call of duty to maintain excellence in their organization. The real basis of making individuals feel like heroes is, of course, genuine care and unselfish love by the leaders of his people. In the ultimate analysis, handling people is a matter of attitude. It is expecting the utmost from them while caring for them completely. It is possible only if a leader can create an atmosphere in which there is free communication. Tolerating shirkers and parasites in the name of being human does a great deal of damage. Fortunately, such people are few and far between and must be dealt with strictly. Ethics and values. It is not easy to build a strong corporate culture in any organization. A strong culture is based on strong ethics and values. This is very important for the success of the organization in the long run. It is very easy to adopt shortcut methods to reach the top, but the downfall also comes at the same rate. Ethics and values ensure that the organization does not adopt shortcut methods to achieve success. Instead, it stresses on the concept of sustained success. Every organization has its own code of ethics and standards in a written form. The code of ethics normally contains the following points: honesty, fairness in practices of the organization, disclosing the inside information, acquiring and using outside information, disclosure of outside activities by the employer to the employee, using organization assets, etc. The value statement normally include value of customers, commitment towards the business practices like quality, etc., duty towards shareholders, suppliers, etc., and following the environmental protection norms, etc. Now, these were the few areas which were covered. There can be more such points which can be discussed under the head value statements and code of ethics. Each organization has its own set of value statements and code of ethics. For the strategy to be implemented effectively, it is important to have a set of formal value statements and code of ethics. These should not be merely in a written form but must be followed by each employee of the organization so as to create a strong corporate culture, which in turn would result in the success of the organization. Now, let us summarize this chapter. In this unit, we have discussed different aspects of behavioral issues which are important for the implementation of a strategy in an organization. In this unit, the stress is more on the concept of leadership and the role of leaders in handling the people. The key to effective strategic management lies in ensuring the integration of the functions of management into a culture of excellence. This in itself is a great challenge for leadership. Whether a leader should change his or her style in accordance with the demands of the situation is rather controversial. It is considered better for a leader to be him or her. The role of leader is important for maintaining the corporate culture of the organization. She or he should set examples to guide his employees to follow a path of sound values and ethical principles so as to build a strong corporate culture.
We were listening to the audiobook by the School of Management Studies IGNOU for MBA program. Course code MMPC-012, titled Strategic Management. Course coordinator Professor Neeti Agrawal. Voiceover by Chitra Gaur. Edited by Ashok Sharma. Program assisted by Tarannum Jahan. Program produced by Dr. Manoj Kumar Singh. This program was brought to you by Electronic Media Production Center of Indira Gandhi National Open University.